Welcome to Winning Hand, a podcast about Marvel Champions, one card at a time. I'm your host, Boom Guy, as always, and I'm here with Lazy Titan and Keiko. What's up, guys?
What is up?
Hey, everybody.
So welcome back to another episode. This is episode 4. I have to say, the response we have gotten so far has been pretty darn good.
Yeah, I'm impressed.
Way more than I thought we were going to get.
Thanks to you guys, by the way.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, thanks to all the listeners. If you are a new listener, we'll just quickly say this is a podcast about Marvel Champions, the card game, a living card game from Fantasy Flight, where we discuss one card in detail every single episode. Today, we are talking about another core set card. What is the card we're talking about today?
Wakanda Forever from, if you might have guessed it, the Black Panther heroes signature cards. Mm-hmm. This is not only one of his signature cards, it's his signature card. It's what the whole hero is built around. So it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, so Wakanda Forever is, as we talked about, kind of his central card, and we're going to get into it at greater length in a little bit. But as always, what we like to start with is what we've been playing lately. Keiko, why don't you kick us off this time?
So I've actually been experimenting a lot, actually and enjoying a lot of Nebula. I know it's been established that I'm a bit of a spider freak.
Yeah.
But I did kind of want to branch off a bit. I know that you have talked about yourself, Boomer, that you're not too big of a fan of Nebula.
No, not really.
And you know how I like to just kind of get under your skin a bit. That's why I picked up Hulk, and I decided to pick up Nebula. But I ended up actually enjoying Nebula quite a bit. So
yeah.
But I've been playing the Justice aspect, which is what a precon is, but I've just been building around that. I like 50 card decks personally, so that's just basically I just added on to what her deck already was.
I think Nebula is a pretty good parallel to Black Panther we're talking about today with the upgrades he puts out. Her technique cards are sort of like those, and they get discarded and triggered each round. I've never really been able to make her work all that well. I just don't find her all that enjoyable to play. Lazy Titan, what do you got?
I have been playing Spectrum recently. Spectrum is a hero I have not played a lot of. She came out with Mad Titan Shadow, and I played her one time and was immediately like, this is kind of boring. I don't really want to do this anymore. So I didn't until now. But I realized that she is kind of an all-rounder, but that's kind of the beauty of it, is that you can just do anything you want to, and then you can't really lose because Spectrum just has a really good kit.
Yeah.
It doesn't synergize with anything, really. So that was my main breaking point of not being able to play her, or not wanting to play her. She can just kind of do anything. So I did Aggression, as might start becoming a pattern on this podcast.
You're the aggression player here.
Yeah, that's kind of me. So I did just a classic Hone Technique dive bomb, because she's got the built-in aerial. Just a classic dive bomb, kill all the minions deck. And, it worked.
She's the only one that has aerial built in, right?
Yeah, as of right now.
Yeah.
It's very nice. I think I was dive bombing by turn 2. It was pretty fun.
Yeah. Well, I will say what I've been playing lately is not a hero. I have gotten into a new aspect, or I'm trying to branch out. I'm a renowned protection player.
Yes.
I build everything in protection, even if it doesn't really belong that way. But recently I've been pushing myself to get into justice, which has long been, I think, my least favorite aspect.
Yeah.
It's mine as well.
I just don't find it very interesting, but I've been pushing myself. But the most recent build I've been doing is a War Machine Justice build. War Machine is also another hero that I want to like. His art is cool. I like a lot of the way he works is cool. I just think it's kind of clunky and haven't been able to get it to work for myself. But I've been playing him in Justice recently, and I have been enjoying it. Branching out to new aspects is different. They all do feel distinct to me.
Yeah.
I'd agree with that.
And I've seen you play this War Machine deck. It's also, I think, a little out of character for you to play so many events in a deck. You generally like a more upgrade heavy, because you're playing protection. You want your flow like waters. You want your hard to ignores and all that good stuff. While you are playing events, though. But
yeah, I'm kind of a slow and steady player. I guess I build the board and then kind of generally take over. I don't play rush decks. I don't play a lot of event-heavy heroes, and generally the most event-heavy heroes like Nova or Gamora don't really work for me. Nova a little bit, but Gamora has always kind of bounced off of me pretty hard.
Yeah.
So,
but you do like your protection events. Your defense events.
Oh, it's so good.
Your desperate defenses and your preemptive strikes.
Give me a good protection. Oh.
Moving on to the main topic.
The
meat and potatoes.
Main topic for today, Wakanda Forever.
So Wakanda Forever is a 1-cost event card. The trait is Tactic. It's a hero action, and it says resolve the special ability of each Black Panther upgrade you control in any order. Resolving each ability is a step in this sequence.
Mm-hmm.
The card itself generates a wild resource, and of course, like we mentioned before, it is a Black Panther identity card.
Your version, you have generates wild resource, as does mine that I have in front of me. But they all are different resources.
Oh, interesting.
So he has 5 copies of them, and there's 1 for every resource and 2 wilds.
Okay.
So interesting fun fact.
Going forward, I would like to make it clear I'm still a little new to the game, and when we planned on doing Wakanda Forever, I just thought to myself, okay, cool, sounds good. It looks like it works specifically with other Black Panther upgrades. So I'm studying in the moment right now, and there seems to be a lot of gimmicks that go with it, including the resource generation.
This is big for our audience. You're getting a live feel of what it's like to see Black Panther for the first time.
Yes.
Keiko is the newest of the 3 of us to the game. You have not played Black Panther. Is that what we can gather here?
Never had an interest, but looking through Black Panther's deck, he seems actually, I think I might enjoy playing him.
He's fun. I played him. I never played him a lot. He didn't appeal to me a ton, but I did play him a fair bit early on, especially.
He's one of the more complex ones from the core set.
Yeah,
so
he has a very
interesting.
unique gimmick where you play these upgrades out and then you activate them kind of in any order you like. So it's really hard to talk about Wakanda Forever without talking about the 4 upgrades he has. The nature of our podcast is that we're talking about 1 card. So we may touch on the other 4, Tactical Genius, Energy Daggers, Panther Claws, and Vibranium Suit as we talk about it. But, right off the bat, we can say, I think this is the only hero who has 5 copies of anything in his deck.
Yep.
Yes.
Nobody else gets 5. A couple people have 4, but 5 is the maximum. And I think this is one of the only heroes or any cards in the game. It has multiple copies and different resources.
Yes.
No other card has different resources on other copies of itself.
It caught me off guard.
I didn't realize that.
I forgot about it until you mentioned the wild resource, and I realized that that's a weird thing that he does.
So 2 of them have wild, and the others are the rest.
One of each resource.
One of each.
So while Black Panther does have quite a lot of resource stuff, he's got his own double wilds resources, so he has 2 or 3 vibraniums.
I think 3 I saw.
And he also, all of his cards are extremely cheap. None of them cost more than 2, which is kind of interesting to have the one hero with built-in resources, one of the only heroes in the core set with built-in resources, to have the cheapest cards. But it does feel very nice to play Black Panther because you're playing 2-3 cards a turn consistently.
Yeah.
Lots of ways to draw cards. And Wakanda Forever does a lot. So when you play 2 copies of it, it feels like you've been playing 4 cards.
Yeah. Let's just go through the card like we always do. First thing we'll talk about is the art on the card.
I think it's cool.
Yeah, I think it gets the point across. I don't know. I don't have much to say. I don't know much about Black Panther's lore, backstory, or anything, so I can't really speak on that aspect of what it embodies of T'Challa, Black Panther. We suspect that no artist credit means that it comes from direct source material. I haven't been able to find anything personally, but again, I don't know much about Black Panther, so I don't even know how far I'm digging. But I do believe, based on that theory, that this comes from an existing comic panel.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know anything about Black Panther other than, like, the movies,
Yeah,
I don't read the comics, really.
I read one comic, but mostly just movies.
But this is also, like you said a minute ago, this is not a visual medium, so I'll just try to describe it. Looks like he's leaping at the front of the viewer, right? He's like leaping forward with his claws kind of out.
Yeah, he's like jumping out of an Airbnb. He literally looks like he's coming out of a hotel or something.
Yeah, there's a room behind him with a bed. He's charging out like he's
jumping out of a window or something, right?
It was maybe that's maybe his house, and he's like leaving to go hero somewhere else.
I don't know.
Looks like you can see buildings in the background. Could be in like New York City, maybe. Basically, the gist is he's jumping at the camera. He's ready for action.
Yeah. I do love the color scheme of the card. His identity specific cards have that kind of purple, that splash of yellow, which I think is really great.
All purple mostly.
It's a really great purple too. So some of them, like we talked about Iron Man, his was very red. So in an aggression deck, it was very difficult to tell the cards apart. These kind of pop out. There's no aspect color like it, so that's really great.
And I think the purple is a very pretty purple. Iron Man's red is kind of dull. This is a very fittingly royal purple. A very nice
Well, purple is a royal color. That's
Of
great.
course. And he's a king, the only one.
Yeah.
Speaking from color theory, yellow is complementary to purple, so it does
Look at
make it
that.
stand out quite a bit.
He also, I really do like the little face in the corner.
Yeah.
Like we said, some of those are kind of creepy. I think this one looks good.
They're often best when it's a mask.
Yeah,
some of
when
the
it's not a
faces look a
face.
little off.
Yeah.
But some of them, actually, I've noticed some of the newer ones are pretty good.
Yeah.
So obviously, no offense to the artist who does those, but
Yeah, no,
it's
that-
a very small bit of art.
They're good. All right. So, in terms of the theme of the card, how do we think this feels? How does this tell us about the theme of Black Panther?
For one, I will say you are playing this card forever. Basically, every time you draw it, you play it, and it takes a little bit to activate. It takes a little time, but it's nice that it's his card, and it's almost always the right option. It does
It's
everything.
a one-cost card, so it's easy
That's
to play.
true. It's a one cost. It's real cheap. With all those extra cards and resources, if you draw 2 of them, you can easily play it in a turn.
Yeah.
And the upgrades do a decent amount of damage. I should say, the upgrades, there's 4 of them, and depending on the order you do them in, they change. So whatever's last in the sequence does twice as much as
gets
it
a little
normally
bonus,
does.
yeah.
Gets a little bonus. So you can sequence them differently to do a little extra thwart or a little extra damage or even healing, and one of them does.
Yeah.
To like kind of do a little strategizing, which is always fun to play, and it does feel like you're utilizing the resources of Wakanda to further your fight, to keep going.
Yeah, I mean, I will say the upgrades are good, and you're always tempted to wait until you have all 4 out to play Wakanda Forever. But it's an efficient card, even if you only have 1, really. And with 2, it's good. With 4, it's really great because for 1 cost, you're activating all these things. You're healing yourself. You're doing some damage. You're thwarting a little bit. So
Doing quite a bit of damage, actually. And then
Yeah.
if you do the maximum thwarting, you're still getting like 5 damage.
yeah,
In different ways, and then the thwart would be 4 if you do it last. So it's a pretty efficient card.
because the energy daggers here, I have them in front of me now. It deals 1 damage to the villain and to each enemy engaged with one of the players. 2 if it's the final step.
The final
Tactical
step always
Genius.
doubles it.
Yeah, Tactical Genius removes 1 threat from a scheme, or 2 if it's the last one. Vibranium Suit moves 1 damage from your hero to an enemy, or 2 if it's the final sequence, so you can heal yourself a little bit. And then the Panther Claws deal 2 damage, or 4 if it's the last step. So you can really do a fair bit, like 1 damage, 2 damage, and then 4 damage.
And then get the thwart in there.
So you could potentially do 6 damage plus a heal
It's not
plus
a ton
thwart.
of thwart. The healing is not very nice,
No.
actually. It's not
Yeah.
a ton of thwart. The problem with the healing is you move a damage. So if you are full health,
Yeah, if you're
it
full
doesn't
health,
do
you
damage.
don't get that.
But it shouldn't be a problem. If you need to take damage, you always can in Marvel Champions.
No, but for all the math nerds out there, even if you're playing 1 card, it's still efficient in terms of using your resources. And for everybody else who doesn't do math but just likes to play the game, it still feels good to get 1 out. It doesn't feel great to do 1. It feels good to do 2 and 4. You just feel amazing, especially if you activate it twice in a turn.
Yeah, if you have 2 copies, which is not uncommon. If you're playing a 40-card deck, 5 copies, you can definitely draw 2 of them. If
Yeah.
you're drawing extra cards, it's certainly possible.
I think he's pretty good.
Yeah, one of my favorite builds with Black Panther was using strength in numbers to draw a bunch of cards to play as many Wakanda Forevers as you possibly could, which was pretty powerful. Obviously, drawing cards is good. Then you could play all the Wakanda Forevers, getting 2, 3 out of every turn. Really amps up the damage that thing does.
Yeah.
And the thwarting is not the best, but it's nice.
It's still there. It's an addition.
Yeah, gives you a little bit, right? It's just making sure it's kind of consistent. No, I think so. The theme does feel like he's jumping around to kind of slash here and kick there. You can kind of feel the motion of it and how he's doing a bunch of stuff super quickly and really fast.
Yeah.
Which again, I haven't read the comics, but it seems to fit in with what Black Panther does.
Yes.
And it fits in with the picture on the card. I think him leaping out and
in the picture on the hero, he's jumping at the camera there too. Yeah, I think the theme of this card is very very strong.
Yes.
I think it's good. What do you guys think about fun? How fun is it? I mean, Keiko can't talk much about this other than
I mean, just by reading it and looking at all these cards and just his synergy with his identity cards alone, it looks like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And the fact that there's 5 of them in there.
Yeah.
I mean, like you mentioned before, you could really just play this for 1 upgrade, and I probably would.
Yeah,
It's really good. And because they're all so cheap, you can get those upgrades out really fast. His signature ally finds them.
And I think he starts with one, right? His setup.
Yeah, he sets up with one.
You put one in your hand to
and
start
if
the
you
game.
have Shuri, his signature ally, you automatically get one.
Yeah, so it's easy to
actually,
get one or two.
Shuri gets you any upgrade. So you're likely going to get one of these, but if you need something else, you can grab that. But yeah, you can usually get 2 of them out within the first turn or 2, and you get all 4 of them out pretty quickly.
And that's the other thing, too, is the fact that there's no limit once per round. Like, it really does sound like a lot of fun to use this.
Which I think is nice about this card. I think it would feel a little worse if it was limit once per round. I think it would have to be better to be limited like that. But I think it's fun that it's not an incredible card, but it is good, and you can just keep doing it if you'd like to. It's a fun little gimmick. No one else has anything super similar except for maybe Nebula, like we said.
One thing I will say about his central gimmick is that as the card pool has grown, it hasn't really grown with it. Mm-hmm. So because his central gimmick is so tied to his own upgrades and his own Wakanda Forever cards, they don't really interact with anything else that comes out. In terms of his identity cards, at least, right, they still play the same today as they did when the core set came out, which to me makes him feel a little dated at this point. I think it's still a good setup, and you can add other cards to it. But it's not like you can add other event cards to interact with these or build on them at all. Yeah. They just are what they are, and they activate with Wakanda Forever. So in that sense, I think he's maybe showing its age a little bit.
Really the best way to use it is just to draw more cards, to draw more Wakanda Forevers. There are some interesting things you do with it. I think the claws and the daggers are weapons, so you can use stuff like Mean Swing and Fusillade if you're playing aggression. And
they don't get exhausted when you use them with Wakanda Forever.
So you can exhaust them and still use them with Wakanda Forever. With stuff, you can draw lots of cards in Justice or Leadership if you want to do that. And he has built-in Retaliate for protection. So he's a very versatile. I thought that the self-containedness of him would be like docking points. But after playing Spectrum a little bit, I realized there is some merit to a self-contained kit that is just all around and good. The only caveat to that is if that self-contained set of things isn't super good, like with War Machine or Groot, it ends up feeling pretty bad. If you can't augment it with something else, like Miss Marvel isn't very self-contained, so when the card pool improves, so does she. But characters like this in Spectrum who are locked into what they have, if their cards aren't super good, like Black Panther's kind of showing his age at this point, it starts to feel a little bad. But I think Black Panther still works.
But I think it also helps newcomers coming into play because the deck basically builds itself. So it makes deck building easier until maybe you branch out into the more complicated or gimmicky kind of heroes. So I think this works well for that aspect, I think.
Yeah, I mean, when I said it was showing its age, I didn't mean it wasn't good. I just meant that it doesn't really change. So when I played him 3 years ago or whatever when the game came out, and I play him today, it's largely the same build. Around that you can put other stuff in. I mean, obviously, we'll get to talk about kind of overall thoughts in a minute, but let's talk about fun. And when we were talking about fun, we decided that it is fun to play. Like, it is a good feeling to do a bunch of stuff. It always feels good to do more things.
I love doing more things, and this scratches that itch.
And the fact that they're all individual things means you can break it up and kind of spread things around a little bit. So you can hit a minion here, you can thwart one side scheme here, you can hit the villain, then you can hit another minion or whatever.
And you can choose the order of which those all play out and prioritize what gives you the double. Like, it just sounds appealing all around.
Yeah, it's a lot of things to keep track of, and it's a lot of things to do, but it's not in like an overwhelming way. It's always very fun.
But the fact that you split it up means it's not just like, 6 damage, but you can really pick and choose. Like, I have 1 left on this minion, so I can clear that minion out, and then I can take 1 off the side scheme. So that all feels good. What about the power of this card?
I mean, we touched on it a little bit. This is a core set card. This is as old as the cards get. It's almost 4 years old now. So it's not the best card, but I will say it does still hold up. The upgrades are still good enough, and there's enough of them. And with 5 copies specifically, that means you can consistently get it. I think there's enough here that you can really make Black Panther hum once you're going. And once you have all 4 out there, if you have stuff like Golden City and you're flipping down to draw cards, like you can really start letting these things go. And they do work. Like, if you're like really behind and you're stuck in a hole, you have to play quite a few of them to get out. But as long as you're like keeping even with the villain, these can help you get ahead.
Yeah, and I think if you were playing him in true solo, I think he really shines because that one thwart then and the little damage here and there
And
really adds up to a lot more.
Yeah, 4 to 6 damage is pretty, like, that's solid. And,
Yeah, it's pretty good.
That's half a villain, some of the older villains' health. And the thwart is nothing to scoff at.
No, it's nice to have it. I don't think Black Panther is among the, like, most powerful.
Oh, no, not at all.
He's, I'd say, like, kind of mid-tier.
As long as you're drawing a lot of cards, he's pretty solid, actually.
I mean, you could say that about everybody.
That's true.
Right. The cards are literally just currency, so
Yeah,
the more you have, the better you are. I do think he has an interesting way to build. I mean, this episode isn't about Black Panther. It's about Wakanda Forever. But I do think that is the kind of defining card of his kit, and it's hard to separate that from the rest of him, especially with those upgrades.
But the fact that you can essentially play him from the start because you have the setup with at least one upgrade, you play that upgrade and you're pretty much open for all 5 of your Wakanda Forevers. And for all intents and purposes, the cost of Wakanda Forever itself as one cost, and you essentially have 1 to 4 different things to do, is pretty powerful from the sounds of it. Like I think I'm going to play Black Panther, and by next episode, I'm going to be talking about Black Panther.
And even if you factor in the cost of the upgrades, they cost 2 each. You pay 8 costs for them. Once you've played 3 Wakanda Forevers, you've already kind of made your money back. Like, you're doing enough damage and enough thwart that the more and more you play, just the more efficient it becomes because you already paid the cost for those. And this card is so cheap, and you have so many of them. You play 5 of these in a game, and you're getting a lot of bang for your buck.
And again, the synergy with Black Panther's deck itself, the fact that he's got the Vibranium resource, double resource cards, plus if you throw in the 3 default resource cards, like the deck is built. It's set for you.
I've actually found that if you play Black Panther, you don't often put the 3 double resources in because it becomes too much. You draw a hand of 5 cards and you have 4 resources in there. That's the worst. His Vibranium kind of substitutes in, and I guess it's better because it's wilds instead of science or whatever, so it's exactly what you're looking for. But yeah, Black Panther's a fun hero. And his stuff is so cheap that it's not obstructing any plan you want to do. So no matter what you're building, you have resources for it, and you don't have anything standing in the way. Whereas in some heroes, you have to play those big expensive cards to like get to where you need to go. He just sets up, does his thing, and keeps going.
And he has ways to shuffle those cards back in, right? He has Ancestral Knowledge, which is the alter ego action that allows him to put cards back into his deck. So those Wakanda Forevers. And he has Golden City, which is another alter ego action that draws him a couple of cards. So he has ways to shuffle them back in and get them out. And so the idea is, right, you're just going to keep getting those through your deck as quick as possible. No, I think he's really good, and I think the fact that his kit is kind of self-contained, like you talked about, Lazy Titan, with kind of a comparison to Spectrum, you can see that from both sides. His kit is self-contained, so you can just slap on whatever you need. In addition, put some extra thwarting in, or you put a few allies in, or some protection events, or whatever, and then his kit will always be there to basically do everything you need to. Plus, he's a 2/2/2 stat line, so he can do whatever he needs to. So. Yeah, he's a solid hero, and I think he's just kind of mid-tier in terms of power and fun, frankly, just overall.
He's fun, but he's not one of my favorites.
I don't play him a lot, no. So overall, how are we going to rank this card? With 5 being true neutral. Titan, what do you think? Kick us off. How would you rate Wakanda Forever?
I would give it an 8. I think it's a good card. Like I talked about, it's efficient, it's powerful, it's fun to play, and I think it gets a little bit of a bonus point for being a core set card. It's an OG card that still holds up. It was a strong design from the start, and it hasn't deteriorated at all. Having 5 copies is a unique thing. Also, just having the different resources is kind of fun because you get to see which one you have. Yeah, it's a very unique gimmick that no one else really replicates, and no one else really can. It's a fun little thing to do.
I think we were just talking the other day, Titan, about some of these newer heroes, and I wish that they had more copies of a card in. I think I was playing Cyclops. Every time I play Cyclops, he has his big card is a full blast or whatever it's called.
High power blast.
He only has 1 copy of it. So you have to find it in your deck somehow. And I was kind of bemoaning the fact that I wish he had a couple, not only because it's a really good card, but just because I would like to find it more frequently than just once or twice a game.
Having 5 copies of a card is powerful. Like, the reason that we lean towards 40 card decks is because that means you're going to find the cards you want more, and just that the more copies of a card increases the efficiency, increases the chance of getting it.
Well, we don't all lean towards 40.
That's true. He leans towards 50. But
I wonder who. Yes,
a reason that many of us in the community, because with 5 Wakanda Forevers in a 40-card deck. That's an eighth of your deck is Wakanda Forever. It means you're going to hit it all the time.
All right, Keiko, let's circle back to what you said at the start of the episode. You said you're a 50-card deck kind of guy.
Yes, and don't let anyone, everybody out there, even you newcomers, don't let anyone else bully you into thinking anything else. But
No, you can play the game however you like as long as you're between 40 and 50. I mean, does this make you want to have a smaller deck to find this card more often? Or are you just 50 every hero no matter what?
I'm all around 50, but I think playing around with Black Panther, I might experiment with that because I brought up before having the other default resource cards, but Titan pointed out that I might not need it because of vibranium and the low cost of everything. I would have trialed and errored that. But of course, hearing that from Titan, I kind of know that going in now. So maybe with Black Panther specifically, he might be a different dynamic for my deck building.
Shrink it down. Yeah.
If you're going 50, you probably could put the 3 in there. It's up to, we have to trial and error that, but I have played Black Panther a couple times, and oftentimes my first draft of the deck ends up with me with 3 resource cards in my hand and 2 Wakanda Forevers, and very sad.
It just feels bad.
I build my deck around high cost upgrades and supports like Symbiote Suit,
and which you can find with Shuri,
Symbiote Suit,
because she lets you find all the good stuff.
Well, yeah.
Symbiote Suit, another teaser for a future episode.
Oh, that's going to be a good
We need
episode.
more copies of that.
I think he's also the only hero that has 3 resource cards.
I think so.
I can't think of
most
another
people
one.
only have 2. Rocket has 2.
Captain Marvel has
Captain Marvel has
and
2.
Hulk have 2 doubles.
Some don't have any,
triples.
obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think.
Gambit?
No, I don't think anybody else has 3.
No, he also has 3 resources.
He has 3 resource cards and 5 copies of
Which-
Wakanda Forever, which is more than half of his.
Yeah, more than half
set.
of his kit is... So with the upgrades, the resource cards and Wakanda Forever, you're already at 12 cards.
Mhm.
So that only leaves you space for Shuri, Golden City, and Ancestral Knowledge. So his kit is streamlined and very efficient.
Mhm.
If you were looking for something, you will find it with Black Panther.
Yeah.
Which I think is actually kind of nice. Reading through some of the new heroes, specifically Rogue, she has like 2 copies of like 6 different cards, and they all do so many things. I honestly haven't even tried playing her because there is just so many things that are happening, and you can't bet on any card because you have so many copies of them all, and they all have different modes that happen depending on what's going on. It's kind of nice to just have 12 cards, have a 15-card list with really only like 9 cards, and you're just set.
And they do what they say. Like, that appeals to my simple little monkey brain. You just put them out there. They do exactly what they say they do.
Every time.
Low cost. Yep. And you're pretty much guaranteed, from what it sounds like, that you play all of his identity cards.
Oh, yeah.
More or less.
It's a very cheap. No one else has such a cheap kit with resources that help you pay for all of it and extra stuff. It feels very nice to play Black Panther because you always get to play 2 cards a turn, really.
Yeah, usually. So, Keiko, what do you think about overall? How would you rank this card?
If I may,
You may.
maybe I might add something. I have a question for the 2 of you that might help even newcomers in general.
I love it.
What aspect would you recommend to play with Black Panther?
Aggression.
Fair enough. You know what? I should have seen that coming. You both already have your minds made up. Never mind, I asked.
If I have to be unbiased, protection. He's a
Attaboy.
2/2/2.
Attaboy.
Yeah. A 2/2/2 stat line is a lot of heroes have it, and every time I have a 2/2/2, I always defend more often than I do the other 2.
Yes.
Because it ends up being more valuable. That's also partially because I never play enough allies. That's my own thing that I just forget to do. But the built-in retaliate is very fun. If you add flow like water and you add electrostatic armor or even dauntless, just to like go all in on that, not take damage and deal 4 or 5 damage back every time. And because his cards are so cheap that if you have those 1 or 2 cards left over, you can still play a Wakanda Forever. That would be my recommendation.
I will just answer your question with the obvious answer. I think it's protection. But it's I don't say that just because I love protection, but I think the built-in retaliate kind of points you in that direction from the start. With 2 defense and retaliate, I think he's set up to defend, and you add things like electrostatic armor and what's the one that you can take a counter off of to deal damage
Judoka
back?
skill. That's a
No,
new
not
card.
that one.
Energy barrier.
Energy barrier. Thank you. With energy barrier and electrostatic armor and armored vest, and you really load him up. You don't even need to play defense events to deal damage back. You know, you can deal 2-3 damage back every attack, which is pretty good. You know, it kills a number of minions, especially the core set minions. And then you have all the Wakanda Forevers to activate on his turn. I think it's protection is my favorite build with him, but I have actually played him in aggression, and I think he works in aggression too.
Yeah, he does. He lets, because those cheap cards. I will also say, Justice is, I think that it used to be, I think, one of the worst aspects. I think it's getting better. And a lot of that is the card draw, which I mentioned does help you play those Wakanda Forevers even more often.
Yeah, find them.
I guess protection makes sense because going off of Wakanda Forever, that basically takes care of his thwart and damage. So,
and it's so cheap that when you play protection deck, you always you do all your stuff on the villain's turn, and it's your turn, and you end up with 2 defense events and a sad look on your face, and then
nothing you can actually do.
So you just end up playing a stupid upgrade and then passing. So it's always nice to be able to hold a Wakanda Forever and even just have like a Quinn carrier up and just play that, which lets you end, because Wakanda Forever does so many things, you can still help the team even on both ends of the turn.
Yeah, I think protection is his natural aspect, along with Spider-Man from the core set. I think they're both kind of, that's where they belong in my heart. As much as I love protection, I think the other ones. Anyway, we are way off track here.
Speaking as somebody who obviously has not played it, but is very excited to play it, I would give this a full 10. Personally,
that might be a first.
10 out
but
of 10.
We'll see.
Keiko.
Maybe on the next episode, maybe I'll come to you guys disappointed. Like, yeah, I should have never played Black Panther. But for the time being, right now, in this moment in time, Wakanda Forever sounds like a lot of fun. Black Panther sounds like a lot of fun. I'm excited to try them out.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'd probably, if 5 is true neutral, I'd give it a 6 or a 7. I think the card is good, obviously. Activating all those upgrades, especially if they're all 4 of them are out, is just really good. It makes him kind of variable. He can do whatever you need him to do. He can heal, he can damage, he can thwart. I do just find he doesn't have... So because these upgrades do a specific thing and there's no way to enhance them or add to them, it does feel like he has kind of a low ceiling.
He doesn't have that kick that some heroes have.
Yeah, like Wakanda Forever is good, but
it never gets better.
Exactly.
Just that late game kick that some heroes have, like with someone like using Dive Bomb or some other big attack card that a lot of heroes get. He doesn't have that built in.
Sure.
But you can't add that.
Well, and that's the thing is, like, some of those big attack cards, like you mentioned, Dive Bomb, was never played until they released Honed Technique, which really buffed it up and made it an incredible card.
Which requires mental resources, which he has a lot of wilds.
But there's nothing, he doesn't have aerial, so he can't play it anyway.
Yeah, but another reason
there's no way to
aggression.
buff Wakanda Forever is what I'm saying. No. There's no way to, or I mean, there could be a way, they might come out with something. But
actually,
until now.
I don't have the cards in front of me. Are some of those are attacks, right?
2 of them are attack.
So could you use operative skill? That might be attack events.
I think operative skill is the thwart one.
Or
right? Warrior skill.
Warrior skill. That might say event.
I think that's for
that's
events.
That's the first thing I thought of is ways to like up the damage by 1 because you're doing 3 instances of damage.
Yeah.
There's that new card that just got revealed with Psylocke that increases damage, but until we get more cards that do specifically that wording, I think we can't use that.
I would actually have to look at how operative skill and warrior skill interact because you're playing Wakanda Forever, which is the event.
Which is not an attack
Which
event.
doesn't do anything. It just says you resolve the special abilities. So I'd have to see if
it says event,
if that interacts with those. I don't know.
You may be able to. Also, they're weapons, so you can use that for stuff. But also because his kit is so streamlined, one, you can add in big cards like even just like uppercut with Hone Technique, just Hone Technique cards if you're playing aggression. You can do that to have his like top end of his curb. Or if you're playing protection, like we mentioned, that consistent play style of just keep going with damage does actually play very well into like a protection deck with a flow like water and stuff. Just doing 5, 6, 7 damage a turn, thwarting just a little bit, just staying alive.
6 or 7, it's on the positive side for me, but I don't love it, and I do think it has kind of a low ceiling. I think we kind of ended up positive on Wakanda Forever. The one who's never played it is super excited.
Yes, very.
You gave it a lower rating though, you grouch. So now you're bringing down the average.
I am bringing down the average.
Yeah,
Maybe I'm the grouchy
I'm not
one.
so excited to play it anymore. I don't know.
You've ruined
your excitement
a new player's hope.
No, it's good, and I think Black Panther is a solid hero. He's not in that bottom tier.
No, not
and we
at
may
all.
talk about some of those at some point, but we haven't gotten there yet.
We've alluded to some of them,
but that's all we've done. We'll get there someday.
We'll get there.
All right. So now, before we wrap up, I do want to remind everybody that if you've gotten this far, thank you. If you are a returning listener, thank you for coming back. We've had way more listeners the first couple episodes than I think any of us expected.
Absolutely.
And it kind of exploded around episode 3, and that's great.
And we'll only get better too, so stick around for some more.
Yes, tell all of your friends. Stick around.
Tell your parents, siblings.
Anybody. But you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, et cetera, everywhere you get your podcasts. iHeartRadio, Podbean, whatever.
AM/FM radio.
We are not on AFM
Yet.
Not yet. We'll get there. Maybe someday. We'll be, maybe we'll be there. But we do have a YouTube channel, Winning Hand. On Instagram, we are at Winning Hand Podcast. If you like what you hear, or if you have a suggestion, you can email us at winninghandpodcast@gmail.com. We also have a Twitter, but I think Twitter's nonsense, and we're not really using it.
We're also, at least Boom Guy is in the Marvel Champions Discord. So I'm sure you could catch our in-house celebrity there.
Yeah, you can at me in the Discord, BoomGuy57. You can find me, send me a message. Tell
Just
me
so
how great the
long as-
podcast is. Feel free to please leave a review, 5 stars. That does really help us grow the channel. It really helps us get in the algorithm. So leave us 5 stars on Apple Podcast and leave a written review. That does really help boost us a lot. So we'd appreciate that. So the next episode you hear after this one will be a special bonus episode, not about a card. We are
Already given up.
attending the Con of Heroes
Yes, we are.
2023.
All 3 of us will be there, and we will be, I believe, on Sunday. Right, we'll be hosting. We'll just be kind of over in a part of the room, just chatting, and anyone who is attending the con may join us.
And please, no autographs.
Yeah, we're not doing autographs, but we will be recording from the con. So Sunday, sometime in the midday around noon or so, we're going to set up some microphones. So if you want to stop by and say hello, that would be great. If you're going to be at the con, we look forward to seeing you. We will play as many games as we can. Please introduce yourselves. If you don't know who we are, I am Boom Guy. I'm the handsome one, and I'll help you point out the other 2. Anyway, we'll be at the con playing a lot of games. I think it's going to be a great time. I'm really looking forward to it. So the next episode, we're just going to talk about what the con experience was like, what the custom scenarios that they had were like, what
Decks
we
we've been
played.
playing.
Yeah. It's going to be just kind of laid back. So if people stop in, we'll have them introduce themselves and just tell us a little bit. So we hope to see everybody there. And next episode, should we tease the next card?
I say we give them a taste.
Let's do it.
Should we just tell them what it is, or should we just...
I think we leave them waiting.
So I will say it is a signature ally. It is, I think, the most expensive signature ally in the game. So some of you may know who that is, but we will talk about that card next time. That's it for today. Thanks for listening, and we will see you guys next time.
See ya.
See you later.